Mike Trout is the best player in Major League Baseball, but who is the second best? This post will examine the cases for and against many of the sport's most prominent stars, followed by a poll. It's based on players' current values to their teams, not necessarily their future values, and it is based largely on performances over the past few seasons, with one very anomalous exception. Some of these players have scant claims to the title, but I am including 19 guys in the interest of not skipping anyone that anybody might reasonably think the second best. Top-tier starting pitchers like Clayton Kershaw, Corey Kluber and Max Scherzer all have cases, but this discussion is limited to position players. There are some really good players who aren't listed here. The Anthonys Rendon and Rizzo come to mind, and are arguably better than some of those included. The stars left out were typically excluded due to the presence of another, somewhat similar player who seems better across the board. If you value great defensive third baseman with fabulous hair, for example, it's difficult to make a case for Rendon over Nolan Arenado. If you love good defensive first baseman with big power and sly bases stealing abilities, it's hard to argue for Rizzo over Paul Goldschmidt. Okay, less talk, more rock. Here are the candidates, in alphabetical order: Nolan Arenado, AP Photo/David Zalubowski, File, ORG Smith, Cons 101 Pros. One of baseball's most reliable power bats, and arguably the best defensive third baseman in the game. Extremely durable, great hair. Cons, plays home games in Coors Field, inflating his offensive numbers. Doesn't quite get on base as frequently as some of the game's most elite hitters. Jose Altuve Pros, best contact hitter in the league. Great base runner, great defender. Reigning AL MVP. Postseason hero and world champion. Cons, doesn't quite produce the same power numbers as some of the other guys on this list, even if he has developed plenty of pop. Plays in up the middle defensive position, but the easiest of them. Mookie Betts Pros, outrageously slick defensive right fielder, easily the best in the sport at the position. Hits for average and power, doesn't strike out a lot, steals bases at a great clip. Off to a really strong start in 2018. Cons, endured a down year offensively in 2017 and has never had an OPS over .900 in any season. His incredible defensive acumen, while impressive, comes at a non-premium position. Charlie Blackmon Pros, while his inclusion on this list may surprise some, Blackmon ranks 8th among all position players in Fangraphs' version of WAR since the start of the 2016 season, ahead of teammate Arenado and many of the most heralded guys on this list, even though defensive metrics always seem especially hard on Colorado outfielders. Plays center field, crushes the ball, has a cool beard. Cons, a bit late to the party, as he didn't emerge as a significantly above-average offensive player until his age 29 season in 2016. Gets lots of hits, but doesn't walk a ton. Chris Bryant photo by Ezra Shaw/Getty Images, Pros, good at everything. Strong defensive third baseman with the flexibility to play first base or the outfield when needed. Second best behind Trout in WAR since the start of 2015, his rookie season. A great hitter whose rapidly improving strikeout rate teases even better things to come. Quietly a great base runner, if not a great base stealer. Mesmerizing eyes. Cons, has yet to rank higher than 4th in the National League in OPS for a season. Not quite as rangy a defensive third baseman as a couple of the other candidates here, and a bit more error-prone. Carlos Correa Pros, a capable big league defensive shortstop who hits like a good first baseman. Correa won't even turn 24 until September, and he's already got a .291/.368/.502 hitting line that only seems to be improving with time. Cons, not quite elite with the glove or on the base paths. It feels really strange trying to find knocks against Carlos Correa, a superb all-around player. But while he's very good at everything, there's no one aspect of the game at which he's the very best. Josh Donaldson Pros, comes with a longer resume than most on this list despite not becoming a time major leaguer until his age 27 season. At his best, a rangy and aggressive third baseman with plenty of power and a knack for big hits in big spots. Extremely fun too. Cons, missed a month and a half in 2017 with a calf injury and is currently on the disabled list with a right shoulder injury that limited his throwing arm in the early part of 2018. At 32, could be declining. Freddie Freeman Pros, somewhat quietly one of the best hitters in the majors for 5 years now. good defensive first baseman with a reputation as a great leader on a young team. Still only 28, extremely young for a guy with 7 strong seasons of big league production under his belt. Played 16 games at third base in 2017 when the Braves needed him there. Cons: plays first base, which limits his value some, and has only once hit more than 30 homers in a season. Kind of looks like an older, fitter version of Buzz from Home Alone. Paul Goldschmidt, Rico Santosky, USA, Today Sports, Pros, similar to Freeman but a couple of years older and with slightly better numbers across the board. A lock for 30 homers and a .400 OBP, and, stealthily one of the league's smartest base runners. Since the start of 2015, he has stolen 73 bases and been caught only 15 times. Of the guys on this list, only Altuve, Betts and Blackmon, players far better known for their foot speed, have swiped more bags in that time. Cons: few. Again, the defensive value is limited by his playing first base. Kind of strikes out a lot, though that's nitpicking. Bryce Harper, Pros, extremely famous. Arguably the best hitter in the game whenever he's healthy. Gets on base constantly, hits tremendous dingers, and plays a solid right field with her A+ arm. Fabulous hair. Cons: frequently compared to Trout because they were both highly touted outfield prospects and both became time big leaguers at very young ages in 2012. His hyper-aggressive playing style, while spectacular too, has kept him off the field for long stretches, and he has, to date, only exceeded 150 games in a season once in his career, in his 2015 MVP campaign. Aaron Judge, Pros, second only to Trout in OPS since the start of last season. Seems to be improving the high strikeout rate, which seemed the lone hole in his offensive game in his Rookie of the Year 2017. Deceptively fast, for a man of his gargantuan stature and A+ defensive right fielder. Hits outrageously long home runs in great volumes. Cons: only slightly more than one season's worth of evidence of his excellence, suggesting there's still some chance for regression. Plays his home games in a very cozy ballpark. Still somewhat strikeout prone despite the early season improvement, and susceptible to low-hanging tree branches. Francisco Lindor, Pros, an elite defensive shortstop and probably the most valuable defensive player anywhere on this list. Tough switch hitter who popped 33 homers and 44 doubles last year. One of baseball's most charismatic stars on the field, and an utter delight to behold. Cons: despite the surprise power numbers last season, still a slightly lesser hitter than most of the guys considered here due to just okay on base rates. Off to a slow start in the early part of 2018, for whatever that's worth. Manny Machado, Mitch Stringer, USA Today Sports, Pros, an overqualified and utterly spectacular third baseman for most of his career, now playing shortstop time in 2018. After some early career injury issues, now coming off 3 straight seasons with at least 156 games played and 30+ homers. As a 25-year-old trade candidate in his final season before free agency, a name you're going to hear a lot over the next 8 to 10 months. Cons: pedestrian .332 career on-base percentage. Off to an incredible start to 2018, but otherwise hasn't really improved as a complete offensive player the way you'd hope for from a guy who broke into the majors as a teenager. Coming off a 2017 campaign that returned an underwhelming .782 OPS, Shohei Ohtani, Pros, dude pitches and plays DH. It's unbelievable. This list is otherwise limited to position players, but Ohtani's unprecedented versatility makes him impossible to ignore. It's not just that he has been valuable on both sides of the ball in the very early part of his career, it's that his presence essentially gives the Angels a whole extra roster spot to play with. Cons: he's only been in the majors less than a month, and it's almost insulting to the other guys listed here to even include him. Christian Villanueva of the Padres has a higher WAR this season, and, all due respect to his awesome start, no one's about to vote for Christian Villanueva as the second best player in baseball until he shows he can hit like this for more than a few weeks. Buster Posey, Pros, head and shoulders and torso and navel above all other big league catchers for basically his entire career. Extremely durable, with the flexibility to play first base and a good enough bat to justify using him there, so he's good for 140 games a season with around 100 behind the plate. One of the sport's most valuable pitch framers and an extremely tough catcher to steal bases against with a reputation for handling pitching staffs well. Possibly underrated despite being a 5-time All-Star, a former MVP, and a 3-time World Series champion. Cons: outstanding offensive numbers for a catcher aren't exactly the same as outstanding offensive numbers for players at any other position. Has never hit more than 25 homers in a season, though playing home games in AT&T Park is at least partly responsible for that. Not going to garner a lot of votes here, most likely, because his excellence is so consistent as to seem boring. Jose Ramirez. Pros: I'm as surprised as you are to see Jose Ramirez on this list, but the versatile switch-hitting infielder has been a huge part of the Indians' success over the past few seasons and ranks in the top 10 among MLB position players in both the Fangraphs and Baseball Reference versions of WAR since the start of 2016, above the likes of Freeman, Goldschmidt, and his teammate Lindor on both lists. A tough out, a great contact hitter who smacked a Major League Best 56 doubles last year, and a good defender at both second and third who can fill in at shortstop or in the outfield when needed. He doesn't look the part of a 25-year-old superstar, but he sure does play like one. Cons: has only been a big league regular since the start of 2016, so he doesn't have a terribly long resume. Hasn't yet reached the 30-homer plateau in a season. Wasn't a huge prospect, which, unfairly, means he still needs to win some people over despite being totally awesome for the last few years. Corey Seager. AP photo/JC Hong. Pros: all of it, really. His greatness gets lost a little among big personalities with the Dodgers, but he has almost inarguably been their best position player since he came up in late 2015. Very much in the mix with Correa and Lindor in any discussion of the best young shortstop in the majors, as he's a better defender than Correa and a better hitter than Lindor. Cons: extremely good at everything but not really the best at any one thing. A bit prone to strikeouts, and appears prone also to nagging little injuries that might keep him off the field for short stretches, though he played 157 regular season games in 2016 and 145 in 2017. Giancarlo Stanton. Pros: thunderous power. His muscles you didn't even know existed. 4th all-time in at-bats per home run, behind only Mark McGwire, Babe Ruth and Barry Bonds. Hit 59 homers last year, plays pretty good outfield defense, and is still a year and a half shy of his 30th birthday. Cons: has been limited by injuries for much of his career, and his MVP 2017 campaign was only the second in his big league tenure in which he played at least 150 games. Prone to strikeouts, as Yankee fans now know, and off to an uneven start to his time in the Bronx. Joey Votto. Pros: arguably the best pure hitter in the game, Votto has led the NL in on-base percentage in 6 of the last 8 seasons and perennially ranks among the league's best in batting average. Walks a ton, and doesn't strike out nearly as often as most hitters with similar power. Good defender at first base. A future Hall of Famer. Cons: at 34, the oldest guy on this list, and one whose value is mostly tied to his incredible offensive production. Off to kind of a crummy start to 2018, though he has made a recent habit of coming on extremely strong in the second halves of